I never had a chance to spend the last days with my grandmother before her death. Everyone was going, but was always busy. That he was sent on a business trip, then problems at home. In general, he arrived immediately after her death, but it turned out that his parents are not happy with him. What came, do you think? There is something to enjoy here, such behavior just knocked him off balance. What are you talking about? You have no conscience though, that I'm crucifying, it's up to you. I came to say goodbye to Grandma, and I don't need anything from you. It's embarrassing that parents are so hardened. All because that he went to work, got married and stopped contacting frequency. He just had no time. Although the guy remembered that period very well while taking care of Grandma while the parents were minding their own business. And I needed the suffering and torment of an old woman. Where it's easier to throw it all on the son. Nathan, combining study at a technical school and a part-time job, succeeded because Mrs. Brooks looked after. Now, when she was gone, mother and father just went crazy. To him, certainly, relatives said that parents are isolated from everyone, but for everything to be so bad, it's already too much. On time, while waiting for the funeral, Nathan settled with his friend. There he talked. I could not imagine that I will be welcomed, yes, and in such a tone, as if I really came for an inheritance. Another looked at him slyly and asked, what, don't you want to participate in the division? To me seemed that you won't miss yours. Maybe, used to apply, and now, when so much time has passed, then forgot about everything. Yes, and the wife said, not to ask for anything and not to stay for the pronouncement of the will. We have everything, why take it from your parents, what is rightfully theirs? Boyan spoke sincerely, but didn't know that his grandmother left something for him. She didn't forget. How did he take care of her? After all, the grandson did everything at the call of the heart. He had no thoughts to make money on it. This her parents kept telling her, so that she does not forget to make a will. Nathan, I saw my parents from the other side for the first time. He, certainly, previously suspected that they hide selfish personalities, but the truth came out when it's time to divide the property. His friend got it right, that you also need to participate in this. It's clear, that sounds ugly and embarrassing, but everything is vital and natural, you're not going anywhere. By 3 days Nathan and most of the relatives met again. On this time in the cemetery, where they saw off on their last journey Mrs. Brooks. If she knew, what discussions will flare up around her will, otherwise you would have acted. However, she had blind faith that children and grandchildren will nobly treat the memory of an elderly relative. What interesting, while the coffin was lowered and buried, parents didn't even come to their son. Nathan stood on the sidelines, and only my aunt decided to talk to him. I so gloomy, of course, your beloved grandmother died, but she lived a long time. Or something else is bothering you, not be afraid, I won't tell anyone, especially your parents, especially that I have a special relationship with them. Nathan nodded and spoke, let's meet after the wake and talk about everything. Now don't want to draw attention. Closer, by the evening Nathan called his wife, buried grandmother, I'll be here for another week. Yes, no, I'm not going to ask for anything and I won't go to a notary. Want take something from grandma's apartment. To me love the sofa in the living room. I know, what do we have furniture, I'll take him to the dacha, and will be like a memory. A woman did not argue, the more I knew, what if the husband wants something, then don't convince him. There's a sofa, because of which there is no point in arguing. Nathan decided, what are you waiting for time, before contacting parents? He didn't want to talk right now, especially that they themselves behaved inappropriately and pushed him away. However, the very next day, his mother called him, son, sorry that we behaved like this. Understand, everything happened suddenly, and we thought that your arrival, this is the beginning of another scandal. After all, lately she has been caring for Mrs. Brooks, here we have decided that you ask for your share of the inheritance. Nathan listened to his mother and became more and more convinced that her character is mercantile, that person has not disappeared. Cold, I understood you, mother, what do you want from me? Was it a scene? What Nathan didn't want to meet them, but once mom called, I decided to make an exception. On the next day the son arrived, but instead of his mother, his father met him, walk through, son, feel at home. This the first sign of that he was kindly treated and at the same time kept at arm's length. It's a little confusing, but the guy did not shake the situation. Dad politely offered tea, but Nathan refused. You better say, why did you need me? Saul a little confused. In general, we decided that it is necessary to divide the inheritance according to conscience, but there are some papers to sign. Now mother will come and explain everything to you. By 10 minutes, Tatiana appeared. Oops, son, you are already with us. I did not think you're coming so fast, but in fact it initially knew what time Nathan they will have at home. Just wanted to create an aura of innocence. Naturally, son did not fall for her tricks. Let's get by without courtesy. Dad said, what papers to sign? So show me, what kind of documents, with trembling hands, and his mother handed him a folder. It was not a will and not even a gift, and the transfer of all property into the hands of parents. In words, they wanted to own everything. Except that, when he is asked to sign this document, then forced to renounce the inheritance. Nathan returned Tatiana folder. I won't sign it. Let everything will remain as it is. This grandmother's will, and I'll wait for the announcement of the will. Need to us to see, how did the faces of the parents change? Son, but we wanted, how best. You didn't have that much time, here we decided, that you gave up everything. In any case, it was then still put you on notice. How would not be so? Nathan knew his parents well, that's why I personally came to the funeral. Son, no more explaining, just got up, got dressed and left. Nathan did not think that he will someday have to take a low blow. On the next day he happened to meet his aunt, the same, who tried to calm him down at the funeral. She not in a hurry, so after shopping she invited me to the park. Nathan agreed, and now they are sitting on the bench. Aunt looked around and said, I roughly imagine what was your conversation with your parents, but you don't have to despair. This, certainly, it's not my business. I think what it takes to fight for an inheritance. You as a good grandson, Mrs. Brooks, but her son seemed an unworthy heir. I mean your father, who acted badly when I almost forced my grandmother to write a will. You stood up on his hair. You guessed it, you want to say that Grandma's decision was not voluntary, but where did the notary look? Why, he was admitted. I hear the guy got it. About what am I saying? After all, literally yesterday they tried to hand me a document to sign. What do you think? Which they had goals. Aunt looked at him questioningly, and the nephew continued. Here exactly. I also surprised when I was asked to give up all property. You well done, that he didn't sign anything, Aunt said. Though this is your parents, but they no longer see the shores and are trying with all their might to clean up the will. Boy, for some reason I didn't notice the trick. Such impression that the aunt with her speeches and eclipsed his eyes. After meeting with a relative, Nathan called his wife and told her the whole situation. What would you do in my place here exactly? Now you have no answer. I can't find the middle ground either. Now don't even know how to pick up a sofa. Because he was chosen together with his grandmother, this is her memory. I can't just leave him. All parents will take it to the trash. Apartments still they get it. Although, maybe not. Nathan predicted that a whole intrigue will spin around the will. Not in vain my aunt said that they directly forced my grandmother to draw up this document. But, seems like that it has certain conditions that do not suit parents. Here they decided to slip documents for signature. To do not get confused in guessing it did not. Solve that he will go to a lawyer and consult with him about. The city had an excellent inheritance specialist. Can say that they were good friends, even went to school together. Igor took him for granted. Settle in, I'm all at your disposal. You problems seem to me, parents leads me by the nose, and here comes the question, how to deal with them. An hour past Nathan told everything, what he had to deal with. Igor just took notes. The whole picture looks like this. More likely, have a will, and it is possible that my grandmother wrote it under pressure. This first. Second, this is what, that there are certain conditions, how would you say that? Sometimes investigators impose certain obligations on their heirs. I don't know for sure what is written in your case, but thought that these conditions are not suitable for parents. That's why I advise you to wait, what will the notary say? Except that, I'll try to look in Granny's apartment for a clue, maybe she left a note, and then you will know in advance what to prepare for. After chatting with a friend, Nathan understood that a fierce struggle awaits him. He called his wife, tomorrow try to take the couch, maybe my parents will give it to me. Although, honestly, I have lost all desire. A woman advised him not to get into anything. This will only destroy your self-esteem. Believe, square meters from the will is not worth it. Better come home and let the parents figure it out. We still have a vacation ahead of us, if you haven't forgotten. Nathan made a promise, which limits the message and will not get personal. However, he couldn't resist, and one day he almost had a fight with his parents. All because of this old couch, which he liked. Finally, when all the passion subsided, Mother said, "Fine, son, you can take this sofa. Well, give word that in a few days you will come and sign the papers." Nathan nodded in agreement. "Here and glorious. You can go behind the sofa even now, Dad will see you through and even help you load it." So after all, Saul, naturally. It's not a stranger. Son, we need to help each other. The right one, not me. Cold, arranged. But I'll be back in 3 days. For this time I will need to determine the sofa for the dacha and then see my wife. All this Nathan spoke so fast that parents believed in sincerity and his intentions. There was no doubt that mother and father took son's assurances at face value. To don't shelve, on the same day they went with their father to their grandmother's apartment. More in the hall, Nathan it seemed that the spirit of a pensioner still hovers here. He knew about 40 days, but didn't think that it is real and attributed everything to mystical deviations. Sofa stood next to the window. Grandmother loved when the first rays of the sun will be hers. Early in the morning, my father began to look at the pictures on the wall. They definitely vintage, and we can get money for them. Nathan, it got so disgusting that Dad was not shy in doing an assessment of the property. Such impression that he felt like a master. Boy did not hesitate and offered to drag the sofa to the center of the living room. General, they made it through their efforts. Realizing that you can't do without loaders here, Saul called one of the offices. Son thanked his father for his help. "Thank you, that so quickly found movers and a car. To me would have to wait even longer, and so in 3 hours they will take. By the way, forgot to tell you, I need some granny photos." "Nothing, if I take them from the family album," father shrugged. "Yes, take everything for you, anything, after all we have agreed to, that you will come and sign the documents." Later, 3 hours the sofa was in the country. Nathan, I came home and the first thing I did was, "What you need to urgently do for a photo frame." A woman looked at his fuss and asked, "What's happening for what you brought so many pictures? Enough would have one, or you have plans to make an exhibition out of our apartment? You can't imagine what lies ahead for us. I know for sure that our life will change radically. It's all thanks to Grandma." To Nathan didn't try to prove, wife didn't understand. Already the next day Nathan went to the cottage to take another look at the sofa. He remembered the lawyer's words and thought, what, more likely, grandmother could have left a note there, where? "Did you sleep?" Certainly, it's just a guess, but no one bothers to check it just in case. The guy has made up his mind. but in front of the dacha, and they called him. This was Mom. Son, something made me feel bad. Father immediately left, and I'm alone. I had to turn around the car and go to the parents' house. Tatiana really looked like it didn't matter, but these are only temporary, maybe, that she dragged herself with nervous experiences, here she faded. Nathan sat down next to her and asked, "What's happened?" Mother pulled out those same documents and handed it to her son. However, the guy didn't rush. Understand, from that I will sign them, nothing will change. It's not a panacea for all diseases. You just a lot of anxiety, and when you calm down, all will pass. Here Mother seems to have recovered. I'll heal, if you sign the papers. How many can be pulled? Mother, I didn't come here for this, to listen to your rudeness. After these words, the guy did not linger, advised my mother to call a doctor and left. Some days the son did not communicate with his parents, and they didn't even try to make contact. To him urgently needed to check the old sofa, but it happened that the wife loaded to the eyeballs with household chores. Even didn't have time to think. Nathan, I remembered everything, not only the words of a lawyer, she and her aunt's instructions. For some reason, she also disliked his parents. Although why should she quarrel with them like it has nothing to do with heritage? One day his wife told him at dinner, "Change it, my word, but the time will come, and you will be surprised, that your affairs with the will are resolved so quickly, and you don't have to fight for it. Everything will be brought on a platter." So many fuss unfolded around this legacy. At all that was needed, what do you decide to negotiate? Not in vain the aunt mentioned during communication that grandmother under pressure wrote a will. She did it, but added some points. Here are the parents, not to fulfill them, decided to go crazy, force the son to renounce the claims to the property. However, Nathan didn't know yet what a surprise the old lady prepared for him. She, after all, not only made him the heir and ensured a secure existence. About he will find out later when he finds a note in the couch. Here it will have answers to all questions. Naturally, that you have to reconsider your attitude towards parents, but otherwise they just sit on the neck. He came to the dacha only in the evening and decided that in the morning we'll inspect the sofa. Nathan stepped out onto the porch, sat down and began to think. Here I will find a clue, what's next really parents will give up their intentions hardly. This because Mom and Dad. They constantly reproached me that I take care of my grandmother, and she doesn't even invite them. Became sad about that after death and Mrs. Brooks a whole massacre began for her property. Not say, to make the old woman rich, but she had a 3-room apartment and a spacious garage, a country house and some more savings on the account. All this was to be shared by the son and his parents. In the morning Nathan took up the sofa, but it turned out not to be so easy. To examine it inside, I had to remove the top. Doubts immediately arose that Grandma, with her complexion and state of health, couldn't hide the clue so deep. Necessary look in those places where her hand could reach. Boy walked around him and decided, worth a look inside and upholstery neatly, per centimeter. He removed the trim, and from there fell out a sheet of paper folded several times. Was decided that they will read this note with their wife. Leaf papers smoothly migrated into the pocket of his jacket. Nathan got in the car and drove home. A woman met her husband with obvious excitement. "Well, what did you find there?" "Only do not speak, what a treasure, or birthday cards." "Very funny joke. Wanted I would be with you at the bottom and laugh, but now you need to seriously think. Now open a note from and with me. Read only about myself. Cute, dear grandson, I wrote you a tip. Very was afraid that your mother knows everything, so I hid it in the upholstery of the sofa, in hope, what will you take? Because I remember that you praised me for the fine choice. Except that, I foresaw that your parents will not resist. And will put pressure. Respectively, some truth will be revealed, which will give food for thought. Nathan took a breath and looked at his wife. Do you read at all or just look at the letters? Yes, while you were mocking, I have already studied everything. Yours grandmother decided to secure your future, and here is how it will look like, I don't know. Again some riddles. Now and his wife leads him by the nose. Maybe, she really did not understand the essence of the letter. Then remains the last option, take a note to a lawyer. Here he will definitely understand everything and tell you what to do next. But need to hurry, because the probate will take place in a few days. When Nathan came again, the parents thought that he will sign the papers. Son, we even prepared your favorite pen. Mother baked a cake today, everything for you, just put your squiggles. However, Nathan was determined, no signatures until I know the truth. Not worry, it's none of your business. In any way, I have nothing to tell you. Think that when my specialist clears everything up, then we'll meet. Here just don't know where and under what circumstances. Parents were shocked, and how should we react now? You don't want to help? What's happened? Already at the exit from the apartment, the son answered them, let's meet with you at the notary. I know for sure that I will hear a fiery speech and a request for indulgence. Nathan flaunted, although I did not fully know, what is the meaning of grandmother's message. The notary studied the note in detail and patted on the shoulder, here that's what I was talking about back then, hinted that there will be clauses in the will. Now everything cleared up a little, and I can safely say that your life is fully secured. Yours parents will be subject to, and here's how they do it, it all depends on them and financial possibilities. When it's time to make a will, you will be pleasantly surprised. Can say that a friend solved the problem and gave parting words. By 2 days to meet at the notary. Nathan very worried, but then I remembered my grandmother, his wife, and calmed down. In such moments of extra nervousness, it's not the best companion. Created time, and everyone was invited. First, naturally, parents arrived, and then Nathan. He didn't move forward, decided that we'll wait for their turn on the sidelines. Notary public started reading, and from the very first words it became clear that inheritance can elude parents. According to testament, they were required to pay him a small annuity, and the amount indicated. Except that, mandatory requirement monthly payments. Term grandmother put up for 10 years from the date of the will. Almost all property was transferred to parents, but if they do not fulfill the conditions, they can lose everything. For this will be supervised by a special person. Here, so the end was put in the struggle for the inheritance. Grandmother really provided him with content, albeit for 10 years, but she took care, and grandchildren just like he once took care of her.